What's going on?
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding. From the words I spit, so sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts feeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. And I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll still be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll still be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon.
If you're coming for me, better ready for some screaming. Just
screaming, G-man.
Technical issues ensue. Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. We are live on our Sunday night show with the next 2 hours. We talk topic around the paranormal with incredible guests. Thomas D'Agostino is going to be joining us here in a little bit. As I just said, some technical issues there for Thomas. I know you're listening in. Again, look to the private chat on the right. Bill gave the number. We want you to call him.
They're chatting.
Okay, so they're working on it right now.
Yep.
So let me know, Bill, if you think he's all set.
I think he might be all set. So you might want to just initially, before you guys start the show, just bring him up and see if we can hear him.
You bring him up.
You do it.
What do we got to do it?
Say something.
Not yet.
Okay.
So
Bill,
Tom,
you're fired.
Call me back, Tom. I'm out.
All right. Don't hang up on. He hung up anyway. Okay. Yeah. No, don't hang up from the show, Tom. Just stay off screen, and Bill will walk you through it. Anyway, everybody. Hi. My goodness. Lost my complete train of thought right now, but it wouldn't be uncommon. We've had one hell of a week, as you guys are aware of, with Helene doing some devastating damage to Florida, to Georgia, to North Carolina. I mean, it's terrible, absolutely terrible. And Andrea Perrin sends her well wishes. She and her sister remain unscathed. They had a couple branches down, similar to me here, a couple branches down. And that was basically it. They didn't have any other problems, but their neighbor lost her roof. And she sent me a picture of Six Flags, which is maybe 10 minutes from where she lives drive time. And the roller coaster is almost completely underwater. Tremendous. And then our good friend Steve DeShavi down in Fort Myers, Florida, living on the water, and same situation. He was blessed. So anybody that was in the paranormal, I think, wound up unscathed by this. So there is a protective bubble. I'm guessing probably Satori pulled out her crystals to protect all of us, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, I send my fondest regards to everybody who's dealing with this in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. I have a unique perspective because I actually had to go out and work in these kind of things, whether it was tropical storm, hurricane, snow, rain, basically to keep everything clear for fire, police, ambulances, emergency vehicles. So my best wishes and respect go out to those folks as well, because they're going toward things that everybody else is going away from. So, to everyone, including our first responders, stay safe, watch your six, take care of yourself, because all we have is pictures right now to really get the breadth and the scope of what you're going through. And they are just, I know about the devastation and the things people are dealing with right now. So, some disturbing images. So, just watch yourself at this point.
Yes, I mean, in some cases, in some parts, right now of the southeast, uh, it will be months, if not years, if ever, that they can replace some of the towns because of the flash flooding that happened. So, yeah, it's certainly something that we can honestly say we're all thinking about and wishing the best. And I know that unfortunately the body count is not over because there are going to be a lot of people who are missing. Some may never be found. Some may never be found. Entire towns are just now covered in mud. So it's just it's one of those horrible things, and you know we forget just how fierce Mother Nature could be. And right now, the Atlantic, the Caribbean, very, very active. So we'll be keeping an eye out for all of that. Let me get through the rest of that stuff there. We are simulcast with kgradb.com, KGRA on Facebook, also on Twitter at Global Radio Live. You can check us out there. YouTube.com, which is what you're watching if you're watching us at Dead Air Nation. Also on Twitter, our Twitter account, dead_spectrum. And of course, Patreon for any of you that would like to join us, whether it's for the town hall on our Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, where all of us wind up on screen together, get a chance to talk shop, talk outside of the paranormal, even just about our everyday lives sometimes. But it really is a lot of fun. And you can't get that on HBO where you can interact like that. So,
You can
uh, yeah, check out our Patreon account, guys. Again, it's a Dead Air Paranormal, patreon.com/Dead Air Paranormal. Make sure you guys look into that for us. So, but did you guys get any remnants of that rain, Ken, at all?
No, we're not going to get anything. It's pretty much headed west of us. So it's been nice out here. We're turning, we're turning a little bit. The air is a little chillier and the leaves are starting to turn. So it's pretty phenomenal. A little bit of rain, but never hurt anybody. So I get a chance when it's bad weather. I get to stay inside and I have a good excuse to do it.
Don't
Get
forget to hit that. Say again.
Get things done here.
Yeah, well, yeah,
all of the show stuff, the computer stuff, the writing, the editing, and all of that good stuff.
Well, I could put it up, the pictures that I took, but Mother Nature did some tree trimming for me in the front. I've got these enormous, enormous trees.
Save you a buck.
They're not pines, but they're huge. Anyway, not only did I lose a bunch of branches in the front, but Mother Nature was kind enough to place them in piles right along the front area of the house. Nowhere near, not on the rooftop, not near the house. All of them were right there by the front bush area. So that makes everything very, very convenient. So thank you, Mother Nature, for that.
Yeah, the tree fairy.
Or Satori for putting out the crystals. Whatever happened. I don't know.
Sure.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button, also the thumbs up for our content, and very important, the reminder bell lets you guys know all the incredible stuff that we have here on the channel, with a lot more to come. But I can tell you right now, what we're trying to do is get some technical issues done with our guest tonight, Tom DiAgostino. and he's switching to another computer to see if that works instead. Our producer is organized that. We've been having a lot of that lately, and it doesn't seem to be from the StreamYard side, so it could be overloaded Wi-Fi, whatever the situation is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do what we do, you and I, each and every week. But we'll work on that. What brought you the decision of Tom DiAgostino, and how are you familiar with him, Ken?
Well, I've known Tom for a number of years. He is a fellow Rhode Islander, and he is an author, a researcher, paranormal investigator, great presenter. He is always up to something, always busy, different locations around southeastern New England, but he's not certainly limited to that. And he has an incredible working knowledge of theory in terms of why New England. Because places are haunted all over the world, but there are certain places that are hot spots. New England as a region is considered one of those, I guess, for a number of reasons. And I'm curious to get Tom's thoughts on that tonight. You know, why us? Why not us? So I met Tom a number of years ago, and he frequented Ocean State Paracon when we had it as a presenter and an attendee. So he's also a musician, and so kind of a Renaissance man. And he and his wife Arlene do great work. And I think at last count there was something like 17 books or 20 books or something like that. So Tom's a lot of fun. Has a great perspective on things. I know Bill's working on that right now. We have a new screen, but all we have is an icon. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but we'll get Tom in here shortly. But I mean, as a New Englander, it probably wouldn't matter where I grew up. I would probably have an interest in this. And I think you can probably say the same thing. But by an accident of birth, I found myself here in New England, and the rich history is the thing that attracts me more than anything, because there's always a story behind a story. And one of the challenges and one of the fun parts is to find out where this grain of truth came from. And we see that up and down the eastern seaboard, really. But that's something that I'll never take for granted here, and very fortunate somebody like me has an interest in these things to live where I do. So we're going to get into everything from ghosts and hauntings to vampires to, everything you can shake a stick at, and maybe turn over some rocks on some places in New England that aren't so famous, but the stories are just incredible. So
you have, again, the cooler season upon you, but you guys are still not slowing down. As a matter of fact, you've got Cheryl Plum and a few others that are coming up your way. You guys are doing an investigation fairly soon.
Yeah, we've October is always, as it is for a lot of us, a very busy month. And because we've taken a step back from a lot of our public events, we have an opportunity to say yes to some other things. And this is one of those times, because they have an event coming up here in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, that they're coming over from Los Angeles. Melissa St. Hilaire, Mikey Thompson, Cheryl Plum. We've never met in person. It's always been on here. So that's always fun when you have a chance to do that and hang out, get some lunch. And so we're going to drop by on them. And then they're going to take a bit of a tour around Salem and, some of the usual suspects. So Sunday, on the 6th, they have accepted an invitation to come to Pain House. And they're going to be able to come in and investigate. And I'll be still joining you on the show here, but I'll be on location. at the Payne House. So we might drop in on them. Kimbra Eberly is our guest. She's going to talk a little bit about Lizzie Borden and other murderous women, and what drives what drives a woman to those lengths. So she's done great work there researching that. So I'm looking forward to picking her brain on that. And the following Monday, which is October 7th, we are going to go back with that crew to Plymouth, Massachusetts, to investigate a location there. So it's back-to-backs for us on Monday. I don't know if I can really name the spot. I'd probably prefer not to at this point. I didn't set it up, so out of respect for, whatever they do at this particular location, if it's okay to publicly say where we are, then I'd be more than happy to do so in a week or so. And hopefully by next Sunday, we'll be able to pull some footage out of there and share it with everybody. Definitely on Mondays on Town Hall on Patreon.
Yeah.
So lots of good stuff coming up throughout the month of October, and we'll get into that as we go along.
Yeah. And I would also, talking about getting out and doing things, the wonderful Cody and Satori posted their last vlog on their channel on YouTube of their trip down to St. Augustine. I watched it from end to end, and if you guys definitely want to check it out, make sure that you do. They go to the fort. This is at the St. Francis Inn. They were terrified of a lizard. Fascinated and terrified. Oh, what if it looks like it's going to attack? And I'm like, you have no idea. They're everywhere and they run like crazy. There's one of the lizards right there. But it's a really, really neat video log. Make sure you guys do check it out. But they take you through a trip of St. Augustine. They go over to the fort. They try some of the cuisine in the area. The St. Augustine Lighthouse is right there. So I highly invite you guys to take a look at that and give you a little incentive to come down and visit maybe in the middle of the winter time down here in Florida. And a lot less rain than what you guys dealt with, Ken. And Ken DaCosta does a cameo on this trip also, so that you guys know.
Popping there from time to time with some comic relief, but we kind of wanted to give them their space on that. Their vlog is outstanding, and I think it's worth mentioning that you're welcome. It's worth mentioning that their vlog is really kind of a travelogue, which I really find interesting. And of course, if the opportunity presents itself, sure, they'll do some investigating, the right place and the right time. But for the most part, you just kind of follow them around, and people that may never visit these places, or people that are motivated to do it right now, they get an opportunity to see that. And camera work is outstanding. It's shot in 4K. So wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful.
The only problem I had with it, Cody and Satori need to pick up a few more languages, because their Spanish in the fort was horrendous. So
oh my God, look at the lizard. Now, that was a lot of fun. It is always a lot of fun to go someplace with your friends that is not entirely paranormally related. You're just tourists. You're just checking in the local sites, eating at some great restaurants, and
shopping, lots of shopping. They did that as
well. Sure.
Right.
Another shout out to our good friends at Ghost Augustine, who we were able to drop in on. I think that your Spanglish was pretty good, guys. Call it Spanglish. But our good friends at Ghost Augustine down there, we dropped in on them in their brick and mortar store, and had a nice chat with them about things. And they extended an invitation, should we go back, to kind of work with them on some things. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Definitely looking forward to the next time, whenever that is.
Yeah, creating experiences and making friends, and again, the travel bug, I miss it tremendously. Now, Bill said, and here's where we have to make a compromise, that Tom is, I can see he's back with us, but not video, just simply audio. But we're going to make sure the audio is always working before we start with the interview. So
Sure.
let's check that real quick we'll check in with Tom and see whether or not he's there. Tom, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Success. We'll go with that. And then
Halfway there, huh?
we've got you as an avatar, but we're fine with that. So, Ken, if you want to do the introductions.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's bring him on.
No, let's not bring him on. We just lost him. Bill.
Okay,
Oh, goodness. Yeah, Tom, I don't know if you're still in there, buddy, but you might have clicked on something and you didn't need to. Come on back.
Yeah,
I'm working back in there again.
It's like, yeah, I know.
Sorry, audience. We apologize. Again,
Tom. But I will tell you, once we get this ball rolling here, we've got, Tom was kind enough to send some video clips and audio clips, and we have a lot of graphics, a lot of pictures to show you tonight to kind of illustrate the places that we're talking about. Some of you will know them, some of you won't. Maybe some of you heard of them. So Tom's going to reboot again. And hey, we've learned to kind of take it in stride more than anything, just waiting for a connection from it.
Yeah, but he's in there, but it says device not connected. Is there something I'm missing here?
Well, you got to activate your cam and your mic.
Yeah, or at least the microphone. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, let's bring him on again.
All right, unmute the microphone. There we go.
We got that much.
Now we're squared in there. Okay, let's get going before we lose you again. Ken, introduction.
Tom, you can hear those, right? Okay, here we go. Okay. Hey, listen, Tom's an educator and he's an author, from what we know, of 17 published books on ghosts and legends of New England. He's been a paranormal researcher and investigator for over 40 years, with over 2,000 investigations to his credit in both the public and private sector. He has a great passion for sharing those experiences and research of the legends, ghosts, and folklore of New England. And his books have prompted several PBS series. That's kind of highbrow, when you're on PBS. But documentaries and television shows they've done in which he's appeared. So he and his wife, Arlene, travel the region in search of countless mysteries and haunts that make New England so rich in legend and history. So without further ado, we have his avatar, and that's his lovely wife, Arlene, next to him.
There you go.
So, hey, we'll talk to Tom for a while, and who knows, after the break, maybe we'll square this away. But Tom, thanks for coming on tonight, man. It's good to see you in quotes, and especially to hear you. We've known each other a while now, man.
Yeah, definitely. I was glad to come on, really. I just don't know what's happening with all this technology.
Yeah, I don't either, but I'm going to put up a quick picture of you here. This is Tom playing the guitar. He's also a pretty accomplished musician. He's played in bands. He is a gun for hire as far as a musician as well. And I've had the pleasure of hearing him play, and Tom's not a joke. He's not a guitar hobbyist, but Tom, you also build musical instruments as well, including some that would date back centuries ago.
Yeah, actually, I built a lute from a 1510 Hans Fry, and I actually just got a Baroque guitar from the 1600s, which I'm using for some of the tracks on a new album I'm recording.
Oh, cool. Is this like you're becoming a traveling minstrel now?
That would be fun. It doesn't pay enough, though.
I don't know if you get away with that these days.
They do it. I still play out.
Tom, we already have a question. This is from Cody and Satori. How many clocks do you own, and are any of them haunted?
That's a funny question because we have 37 clocks in the house, and I rebuild clocks too for the fun of it. And I'm sure a few of them are haunted because they do give me trouble. Most of them are one of the kind that you have to wind up, and they have either the Westminster chimes or the regular cuckoo clocks or whatever. And I'm sure there are a couple that have attached spirits to it.
You need to collect cameras, though, because you were on time for the show, so there's no problem there.
Yeah, on the break, I will have a camera plugged in.
Well, you were on time, so I want to get into some of these places with you, and a lot of these are just random type things, Tom, that I sort of picked out that I know you have an interest in. And the first photograph I'm going to show everybody is you and Arlene at a place called Nine Men's Misery in Cumberland, Rhode Island. And this is a picture of you at the monument, and you're starting to set up some of your gear there. So for anybody who has no idea what that is, can you just give us a brief little background on what Nine Men's Misery is?
Sure. That's actually in our latest book, Ghosts of King Philip's War.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually been there several times, including on the anniversary. It was during King Philip's War, there was a battle. They called it Pierce's Fight, where Captain Michael Pierce and a bunch of his troops went into the area of Central Falls, and they saw some of the indigenous warriors acting like they were injured. Well, they said, whoa, let's get them. But it was a trap. So they were outnumbered 8-1, and every single one of them, believe it or not, either died. Very few escaped the Canonchit's troops. 10 of them were actually captured and brought to that spot in Cumberland. 9 of them were killed. Now that and they were found there, and buried on that spot. But what happened was when they had to give a lot of I have a book. They only made 100 of the original copies of the Massachusetts soldiers in King Philip's War. They had John Fitz, Benjamin Buckland. They only had 4 names because the paper got ripped on the way being sent to, log in who had died there. And this is the oldest, known to be probably the oldest war monument in the country because of its, the age it goes back to. Well, it's haunted because they hear screams and everything from, I guess, the soldiers who died from the Rehoboth militia. They see a horseman on the path, and these paths are sparse. It's not like anybody can come out of nowhere and say, I'm going to scare them. They see the ghost of a child near the swamp to the left of the monument. And a lot of people get these weird feelings when they're there. In 1790, they actually, Benjamin Buckland was actually discovered as being Benjamin Buckland. He was a giant with 2 sets of teeth when Dr. Bowen went there and dug him up. Well, in 1926, I believe it is, they were taken back to the Historical Society because this was on the territory of the Cistercian monks, and they didn't want it to be on consecrated ground, this unconsecrated grave. But in 1976, long after the monks moved to Spencer, they reburied them there in the anniversary of the fight, March 26, 1676, when Pierce's men were all killed. And since then, it's been really haunted.
Okay, so this is also on the grounds of a monastery that my understanding is may also be haunted, but because it's a monastery, people don't have access to it. Is that accurate?
Actually, they do have access now. The monastery is a Cumberland library, and the remains of it, there are some parts you don't have access because now their offices are just closed up. But the old part of the library, if you're looking at the monastery, as soon as you enter the gates, way to the left part is all closed up, and they just use that for conferences and stuff. But the library itself, the newer area that was attached to it, you can go in and you can walk around the grounds of the monastery. You can actually walk the Nine Men's Misery. They have trails. and things like that. And it was a band. It was a couple of fires there, and they were actually a silent order to begin with. What the coolest thing about that also is that when they went to take their brethren who had died, they bury them in a sheet and on a board so they could go back ashes to ashes, dust to dust. They started digging them up, like they hired somebody to actually do the excavations of them, very, obviously in a respectful way. And the first one they dug up was the first one who had died from 1902 when this was started. He was not at all, not even going to ashes or dust to dust. The guy in the backhoe shut the backhoe off, got out, and he wouldn't continue. And I know that this was corroborated because we did some Blackstone Valley tours and we took people there. One guy used to be a monk there, and another one, his father was the guy who drove the excavator that got out of it and wouldn't go back in.
Okay. Well, I know as somebody who has a hydraulic license who can drive machinery like that, it's there have been instances, and this is nothing about the paranormal, but there have been some disturbing scenes. Let's say that you needed to have a backhoe and dig present. So, yeah, I don't care if you're sitting in a modern machine. It can get a little creepy. So I empathize with that guy,
Yeah.
what exactly I'm going to find,
Well, the coolest part about it was the guy, like, I guess, because it's a very religious thing. And here they are doing this archaeological dig to properly, put these people in the proper caskets or whatever boxes to bring them to the new monastery in Spencer, Mass. And he digs up the first one, and the guy hasn't even decomposed at all.
Well, here's before we move on to the next one, I do have a question about that because this is up your alley. I may be conflating two different stories, but weren't there, and I don't know if this is attached to Nine Men's Misery, but in Cumberland, weren't some giant skeletons excavated there at some point many, many years ago?
Yes, that was at Nine Men's Misery. That was Benjamin Buckland. He was like 6'7" and had 2 sets of teeth, and he did call him a giant. He was a very, very big guy. And when Dr. Bowen in 1790 started doing the excavations, they were looking for it. And this is how they also knew that it was the Rehoboth militia, because Cumberland was part of Rehoboth back then. And yeah, they excavated this giant skeleton.
Yeah, you're right, Michelle. Michelle Welker says Taps did a show there, and I believe that they did.
Yes, they did.
Confirmed by Cody and Satori, and if anybody would know, they would. Dad was there. Yeah, Jesus, if they're going to call people 6'7" giants, I wouldn't stand a chance there.
Yeah, he may have even been 6'8", but he was very close.
Tom, I know that just walking around some houses and old buildings that I go to in Rhode Island where, you have to duck in the living room. But the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is we all know about Salem witches. But Rhode Island had their own, and I'm using air quotes here, witch as well. And she was known as Dolly Cole. And if you could tell us a little bit about the story of, she's also known as Goody Cole. So tell us a little bit about that for those who have no idea what that's about.
Well, Dolly, it's kind of funny because Foster, that happened in Foster, Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. And Dolly Cole was probably mistaken as a witch. Because
I'm showing a picture right now of the Dolly Cole Bridge. So.
Oh yeah, that's actually the only covered bridge in the state of Rhode Island. Yeah, on Old Central Pike. And what happened was, I guess she was mistaken because there was the Brown witches, Whaley and Abby Brown from Foster, and then it was Peggy Herrely, who lived right near the Coles as well. And I guess over time, Dolly Cole was mistaken because she was married to Hugh Cole, who own that's why Dolly Cole Brook, Dolly Cole Bridge, Dolly Cole, everything is over there, Dolly Cole Hill, because they own the whole area. And you sometimes, I guess, when things like this happen and legends start getting convoluted, they attach it to the biggest name. The funniest part about that is Dolly Cole and Hugh Cole's daughter married only Potter Ramtail Factory, and she was once the owner of it. Hugh Cole died shortly after the War of 1812, but Dolly Cole died at 94 years old. And yeah, there you go. I guess 94. Yeah. And she was mistaken for a witch, a transvestite, a vampire. Oh my God, so many other things.
Well, wasn't everybody? We're getting into vampires a little
she
later.
wore a lot of bonnets, you know.
Yeah, I actually have her headstone up here right now. Yep. So what are the legends? What are the claims? What goes on around that part of Foster, Rhode Island, which is a very, very rural part of the state, in terms of the bridge, her grave site? What are the claims of things people have experienced there? Well,
we have the ghost of supposedly Dolly Cole, but we found mostly it's probably Betsy Grayson, who in 1860 drowned while trying to get a bucket of water from the Pontiac Reservoir right there off Route 6. That whole area is the congestion of haunts for Foster. Her ghost is seen. I actually saw it when I was 12 years old. It was pretty amazing because I didn't know until a year later. I had actually saw a ghost drawing water from the Pontiac River while I was fishing with my father.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
wow.
Huh? Yeah, it was pretty wild. And then we have the Ramtail Factory, which is Rhode Island's officially haunted site, which is cool. We have Aunt Lonnie Davis, whose ghost is off of the Tucker Hollow Road. She's buried off there. So you have this like really congestion of things. The old Ramtail Factory is haunted by Peleg Walker and a few other people, actually, who squatted in the old buildings before they fell down, and another one who was Jonathan Buckland, who killed himself in the factory also in 1817. So yeah, that whole little area is like a really big hotbed for haunts because it's all within like a half a mile. If
all the states seem to have that sometimes, where there's a concentrated area. In Massachusetts, of course, you know, there's the famous Bridgewater Triangle, which is a place that we are going to be visiting at some point this fall as a group. I've been there. Other people have been in and out, but not as a collective. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Now, the next place I want to talk about is something near and dear to your heart, because we had to miss last year, but I'm going to ask you once again if we can join you here this fall, maybe in November when some of the foliage goes away, but that is the Ramstail Factory.
Yeah, that actually is our favorite place. And in fact, we're going in November 17th.
Okay.
We're going back there, yeah.
Are we welcome? Can we come?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay, I'm inviting. Cody, Tori, you're out there. Okay, we're going. I'm going to put a very, very old photo of the actual structure, and there's a horse-drawn carriage in front of it. Maybe, you're familiar with this picture, but at one point, this is kind of what it looked like. But this is, if I'm not mistaken, Tom, the only place in Rhode Island that's been given a haunted designation. Is that correct?
Yes, in the 1885 state census by Amos Perry, page 36, it says Foster Factories, Ramtail haunted.
Okay, so they've been certified.
Yeah, in fact, it's an I have an 1891 article from England actually that tells about the haunts, based on another article I have from the Providence Journal in 1891 that tells about the haunts, and actually has a drawing of the original factory with all the mill houses because it was a little village, and
Mhm.
it's haunted by supposedly the ghost of Peleg Walker, but there are several more there. It's just the whole area seems to be alive. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I just saw one of the runes there, the foundations, and now we are looking at the headstone of Peleg Walker.
Who died May 19th, 1822, which actually, when they found him, that was a Sunday.
Now, there's an interesting story about the haunting of Ram's Tail that goes back to bells ringing, and why don't you kind of flesh that out for us a little bit, Tom?
Yeah, we've been there. Like I said, I've been there over hundreds of times. And we wrote the only book we ever wrote on one place is the Ramtail Factory, Rhode Island's haunted Ramtail Factory. And after he killed himself, the people started hearing like the bell ringing at night. The bell was gone. This mill picture shows the bell gone, but the bell was ringing, and they opened the factory and they tried to find who was doing things. It was a prank. They had to remove the bell rope, and then they had to remove the bell. Then a couple of times the factory started up on its own in the middle of the night, and at one point it was running opposite the stream. Now the wheel was under the factory. That's so to keep it from freezing, which was pretty common in New England, especially. And then they saw his ghost walking around with a lantern light. Now, to this day, people hear the bell, and we've had people. I'm actually town official for Foster, Rhode Island now, which is funny. People said they hear the bell way in the distance, and they actually have seen, and we have seen it too, the light, which is a candle lantern in 1822 or be up until 1853. You would be using candles. Kerosene didn't come to this country until 1853. So you would be using a kerosene lantern. And we've seen that light coming down the path. I actually went there years ago with a friend of mine, and we saw a glowing form just emerge in a certain area and start moving around what would have been the first floor of the factory. My friend didn't stick around to see any more. He was gone. And he took the only flashlight with him, which this place, when it's dark there, it's dark. You can't see anything.
Yeah. So I like our chances of seeing something bizarre out there.
Yeah, well, we actually have had EVPs when Arlene reads tarot cards to field questions. It's better than saying, "Hey, do you like pizza?" Because they can identify with the cards and stuff. And she said, she draws a card. She goes, "Ooh, a woman. Who was the woman in charge of finances?" And when we played the tape back, we got Aura. Now, when Only Potter died exactly 9 years to the day Peleg Walker died, his wife, Aura Potter, which was Dolly Cole's daughter, ended up with the taking over the factory.
Mm-hmm. We have a comment here from Sandy. She loved the old fences with the bars around cemeteries. Sandy, are you aware why they put iron bars around cemeteries? I'll bet Tom knows. It's not to keep you out. There's a hint.
To keep the animals from going in.
It is to keep the spirits in. Iron had something to do with that.
Yep, and also, yeah, because the animals also would eat and dig and stuff, and they the graves do rise up over time.
Right.
And
well, those were called wolf stones. A lot of times when you see those huge flat stones flush with the ground, the original idea of those was to stop animals from digging up
the bodies.
They weren't burying people 6 feet under.
Or embalming them, so they smelled rather meaty and ripe, I guess, to animals.
Yeah, for sure. Before we go to break, I'm going to break this up a little bit. If you have questions for Tom, by the way, put them in chat, as always, and we'll get to those. Tom, you sent us some clips here. I think it would be a good idea before we go to break, and we can bring George back in to comment on this. The first one that I have ready to go is an EVP, and it's called Good Night. Can you give us some background on where you were and where that was recorded?
We were at the Colonial Inn doing one of our Dining with the Dead 1031 investigation dinners, and one of the guys who was leaving, we think he may have been the owner, but we're not sure. Anyway, that was in room 27, which was used as a morgue during the shot heard round the world in April 19, 1775. And then you go right upstairs, which was the operating room. Well, that was in the morgue area, and we were all switching, and he just decided to stay behind and say good night. And of course, you hear the thing go night, and he goes Jesus Christ, and everything. He goes one more time, good night, and the thing goes good night. So yeah, he came booking up the stairs. He was like, wow. And we're going to be there. We're going to be there on the 6th and the 18th, I believe. Again.
Yep. Colonial Inn is a place that we've investigated twice, and I didn't want to clog the airwaves tonight because it's not about me and what we got. But I've got a picture of room 24 up right now, and that's the room that I stayed in, and I believe that was the morgue. 27 was the operating room. I think they're right above and below each other.
Yeah, 27 actually was the morgue, and 24 was the operating room.
It was the operating room.
Yeah, and those are the only two rooms that were open. He's not going to open his bedroom. There were probably spare rooms for the house, and he said, "Okay, you guys, we'll use these."
So we've got some video. Yeah, we've got some video we'll play later of that too, and you're at a little disadvantage if you can't see this. But here's an EVP recorded in room 24, and I am not going to, with these, I made two copies. One does not have what we think it says, and the second one does. So here's the first for everybody.
Good night. Jesus Christ. One last time. Good night.
Okay, now here's the second one with the captions on it for everybody who's watching, and this is pretty good. Tom, this was done on a spirit box, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, George will weigh on that because he's our resident spirit box professional here. Here's the same clip, but here are the captions.
Good night. Jesus Christ. One last time. Good night.
George, that's one of those that I listen to, and I don't think it's random.
No, it's pretty interesting.
Direct response in a way.
Well, it's first of all, I think it is not your typical shack hack spirit box or even an SB11 or 7. I think it's an echo box because you can hear that chamber that's in there. But the time frame to the response is kind of similar to the one that we used when we were at the St. Augustine Old Jail. So time-wise, to get that response in there was right on. And of course, you heard both responses were the same voice. So I would have to say it's definitely an intelligent response to it. But also the recorder was picking up a lot of the background ambiance. So that's the only thing that made it probably a little bit harder to distinguish what was being said. But the first one absolutely was night, no problem at all. Second one, I'd have to listen to it a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the cool thing about that is also I've worked with the spirit box and seen when it's come around again to the same channel, and they're usually 1 minute and 10 seconds. That wasn't 1 minute and 10 seconds long. So if there was, let's say, a DJ or something going, oh yeah, good night, everyone, blah, 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 it'd take 1 minute and 10 seconds for that to come around and him say it again to that same frequency.
Right.
Who was the guy who was surprised who said, Jesus Christ? Was that you?
Well, the funny thing is, we're not sure. We think it may have been the owner who came and wanted to join us because he was like, he was just interested in hearing it, or it was just another, an elderly gentleman who came by himself. Because that night the owner was there and he was helping us, and we're like, I didn't know who he was. He was like, he's setting up tables, and I'm like, oh no, we'll do this. We cut this. He goes, oh no problem. And we thought he was just a guest, but he popped in because he was so interested in it because he owns the public house and the Hawthorne too, and we do them there as well.
Yeah, they're pretty good about that as far as embracing the ghosts, the legends, the history, the hauntings, because there's no doubt in my mind it's an active place.
Oh,
after two trips there, plus to me, I go there for the pot roast, which is to die for. If anybody goes to the Colonial Inn for dinner, order the pot roast.
Guess what we serve?
You serve pot roast?
Big buffet, and pot roast is part of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's
I need to pile my plate.
I'm going to play the labeled one more time before we move on for everybody. Here it is one more time.
Good night. Jesus Christ. One last time. Good night.
Yeah, I said it. What do you want from me?
I love it.
All right, the next one is woman's voice asking for some assistance. I don't want to leave too much of a breadcrumb trail because I did label them. Is that ringing a bell? Or you want me to just play it? And then after the first one, maybe you can just give us the background before I play the second.
Is this the one that says "Help me"?
Well, yeah, now you just gave it away.
Oh, sorry. All right. This is This is in the public house in the ballroom. For some reason, there's a lady named Rebecca who's always talking, and she's always asking for assistance in that way. Now, we're not sure why, but this was also in the 30s. It was a home for wayward women who were pregnant, maybe weren't married, having babies. They needed a shelter, a place to live. So this woman is probably she does. I hear this all the time there. Incidentally, this is just one of like a dozen I've got there. The same exact thing, same voice.
Okay, so once again, this is at the Colonial Inn. I've got a night picture of it. Absolutely gorgeous. For those of you in New England who have been there, or those of you who are looking to visit, highly recommended. Highly recommended. So let's get to
the break.
Next one. Here you go. Okay, one more time with the label. And there you have it.
Very interesting, though. We get that all the time from that one room.
Yeah.
As we're about to jump into break here, I do want to ask a question of you, Tom, and that's the equipment that you're using, and you're in different locations, I would imagine. How much of the same equipment are you using for continuity, or does it change up depending upon who's coming with you?
Actually, this is funny because what we use is the same equipment.
Okay.
And we also use reel-to-reel recorders at the same time. I have some reel-to-reel recorders from the 1960s just to back it up. You're going to hear one EVP that came from a reel-to-reel just to show you how this, is what it is.
That's classic. That is classic. I like that. And we got to go to break here, Ken. But if you could play one more time,
Sure.
because what I heard, and I could be completely wrong on this because I only heard it one time, whereas I know when we're reviewing our evidence, we play it multiple times. I thought she said that was me, almost a confirmation if somebody was asking of her or for her. So if you can click it one more time.
Sure, absolutely. Here you go. What I really enjoy about that, what I find is kind of unusual, is the trail off at the end.
Mm.
You know, not something that on those type of things that I'm used to hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that's cool about that is Arlene and I always talk about pareidolia. We have a EVP from the Tavern on Main, and I said, "What is your favorite color?" And I heard orange the first time, and she heard fuchsia. Believe it or not. And I'm like, I don't hear fuchsia. I heard orange. Now, it could have said fuchsia, but because I heard orange the first time, my brain was hardwired to say that was orange.
And that's the way we are.
And we always bring it up. I bring that up to people, and I say, what does that say? I bring it up to the whole crowd when I use an example of how pareidolia works, and all of a sudden you heard that, and that's it. That's all you're going to ever hear. They could have said onomatopoeia, but you heard orange.
Yeah, I want to bring up that particular concept with this field right after the break, but we do have to go to break right now. We are speaking to Tom D'Agostino, and we're talking about Haunted New England. We'll be back right after the break, guys. Stay with us.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
As UFO reports come in from around the world, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, is there. We continue to explore new cases and build our massive database. We share our information with the world in a number of ways. If you would like to be part of our investigative team, you are always welcome. What could be more exciting than exploring the UFO question firsthand? Join MUFON, find your friends.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
And a big thank you to our Patreon members. Guys, welcome back to the second hour of our show with Tom D'Agostino. All these wonderful people are part of our Patreon family and joining us as many as we can fit on screen each and every Monday night for Town Hall. But again, so much that's on there. And I know for our Patreon members, Ken and I have been slacking as of late only because number one, it'll be about another month or so where Ken will be snowed in. We'll be putting a lot of content back in there. And I will be still here taking care of Pop. So I got to jump back in there too, but only after they get him back walking from the fractured tibia. So, you know what did they do to that? When they drilled from the top of the knee and put a rod from above the knee straight down through the tibia that's broken. So it's the rod going all the way through like a concrete pillar. And then they put that steel rod, titanium rod, all the way through the tibia.
I'm tingling below the waist.
I can't.
And everybody in chat, get your minds out of the gutter. What did you think I meant?
Yeah, they 6 to 8 weeks recovery. Give me 2 years on something like that. Forget about it. God bless him. He's a tough old bird going through that. That's incredible. But yeah, we are so happy to have our guest joining us tonight in just a second. But we have some information for what's upcoming here on the program. And Ken, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. Of course, tomorrow night is our Patreon town hall. Everybody loves it. We have people coming in from all over the country and Australia because we got our mate Brendan Monk, who joins us from Australia.
Yes.
And that leads us to an upcoming show. But this Thursday, the ladies are back. It's Erin and it's Carrie. Well, that was weird. And boy, over 1,000 views the last show. So extremely funny and informative. And they are both absolutely crazy. So you won't want to miss that. That's 8 p.m. this coming Thursday. And of course, Extremely Strange with yours truly and my Puckwudgie friend and my thought bubble. The latest one coming right now that I am finishing up is going to be the actual true story of the Demon House, because we've heard about Zach Bagans' version and we have seen The Deliverance on Netflix, which is based on the story. But what is the truth? So I did an examination of that because I thought it was relevant. So possibly by tomorrow night or Tuesday, that's going to drop here on Dead Air. And in doing the research, I think it's something that you're going to find extremely fascinating. Next Sunday, we welcome Kimbra Eberly, who is also a musician and an author. And she's going to talk a little bit about the case of Lizzie Borden and other murderous women. So that will be extremely interesting. She's taken a deep dive into the written testimony, and she has some incredible insights on that. But she went one step further than the history. She investigated the house, I think, with Brian Cano, and she formulated her opinion on the haunting of the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast. So we'll welcome Kimbra. The following week, we're going to talk a little bit about the Octagon House in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And in the second half of the show, we are going to be previewing an event that's going to be held October 20th in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I'm sure you recognize some of the names here. Reverend Bill Bean, who we recently had on the show, Bishop James Long, who is a great friend of ours, Bishop Dr. Sparks, Reverend Todd, Archbishop Enright, and they're going to talk about defeating the demonic. So it is a Q&A panel, it is a dinner, and it promises to be a really remarkable event. Jason McLeod is going to be there, who we've had on the show, and another guest of ours, Mercedes Luke Benedict. So that's on October 20th, and some of those folks will be joining us on the 13th to preview it, talk about it, and talk about their perspectives on evil in the world today. So lots going on in the month of October.
Because it's Halloween month. And
Yeah.
we have to scare you guys. So time to bring our very special guest back on with us as well. And Thomas, thank you for taking the time here on your Sunday evening. And you're on mute again, my friend. So make sure you hit the unmute, the microphone with the line through it, so that we know we have you back. But I wanted to at least address that topic. And let me bring this up. Ken should be familiar with this also. As a matter of fact, a lot of you'll see this from time to time. But as I share this, audio illusion. Have you heard of this?
Let's
play
see.
a clip, and you'll hear the different ways something's being said. Now, this is normally they'll play a particular. Not necessarily a chant, but the British soccer fans are saying something out in the audience, and there's another one I do like that also, and you can hear each and every one when they put it up there. It's like it completely changes the way that your brain is perceiving it. Very, very unique concept, and that's what I was thinking about when we were playing those clips also, or Thomas's description of orange versus fuchsia. Unless it is a ridiculously clear Class A, and that's tough. Unless you do repetitious response, anything could be misunderstood, miscomprehended, or interpreted differently from each person. Thomas, I said again, for your microphone, it's got the line through it. Click on the microphone icon so that we can get you back on audibly, my friend. If he's actually there right now, he may have stepped away for a minute, didn't know how long our commercial was for. So
he's trying.
Oh, he's trying?
Yeah, he's trying.
All right. Yeah, just where it says there, Tom, and apologies for our audience there. Again, a little technical issues. That microphone should be on your picture or just below where it says mute. If you click on that one time, that should unmute you at that point. Right now, you're currently muted. As a matter of fact, it's probably highlighted at your end. So see if we can't. And if not, then we'll boot you out and bring you back in again, see if that'll work that way.
Have you tried rebooting?
Yeah. And in order to reboot, you've got to leave studio. That's that little red X at the bottom of your screen. Click on that and then join us once again and see if that'll work instead. And looks like he was frozen on one. So I'm going to remove that one. Okay, from studio. Great.
You got the right one?
There we go. Yeah.
Yep. You got it.
Nope. Now you go right there. You're perfect now.
You hear us?
I tried to put a different camera in. I don't know. It didn't. Just the darn camera just blocked everything out. I mean, I could leave studio and get a camera, but
nah, we're doing well. We're doing well.
You don't want to see my face anyway.
That's okay. I've got pictures of you here that we can put up from time to time. There you are. Oh no, wait, that's Mercy. It's Mercy Brown. No, that's not it. All right.
Before I use oil of Olay, right?
Yeah. George was talking a little bit about audio pareidolia before we started, so I'll let you guys kind of get into that because it was only about a week or so ago. I know I got into a pareidolia debate with Tony and Ron. Little debate.
It just, unfortunately, Tom, a lot of the times, again, it seems to be each individual's interpretation, how their ear picks up the sounds. Again, unless it is such an amazing Class A that comes across, you sit there and try to piece together what it is that we're hearing there. And the examples that I just showed, where they've had British soccer fans that are chanting up in these stands, and how you can hear it 8 different ways. And there's still all we know is for a fact is this: something is being captured. Now, as you said, you have on there also, I certainly want to hear the reel to reel audio captures, because that certainly depicts something that is being picked up from the electronic devices, and not necessarily being played over a radio, be it a Shack Hack or SB11 or 7. So your thoughts on how we could better manage those particular captures. In the case of the night, it was said twice, good night, and then you get a response, and then repeated good night to get a second response. That helps to denote the intelligence behind it. But too many, and I want your thoughts on this, too many investigators out there just go on blind faith that the response is there. As you said, could be a DJ. And if you're asking one time how many spirits are in the room and you're going to hear 7, you don't know whether or not that is the time, the number of people that died, a sports score. It could be a myriad different things. So how do we tie it down to more validate what it is that we're hearing?
What I do is, because I use, at the same time, I use like reel to reels, the spirit box is saying something. But when you listen to the reel to reel, it will isolate it also. So it's not so close to like the spirit box. Like I'll have, let's face it, if a ghost is going to speak, it's be like us. When I'm speaking and I'm in a room, everyone hears you if it's quiet, or at least it picks something up. So we look for that corroboration. And the other thing is, if I get something and I'm not sure what it is, it could have been someone breathing. It could have been someone shuffling their feet. Also, when Arlene is drawing the cards, when we're doing the tarot, you hear, yes. And it sounds like yes or an answer. And all he is flipping the card over and is rubbing up against the table or something, or, and that kind of thing. So anything that's not like, wow, I hear that, that's unbelievable, I'm like, well, it could have been anything.
Sure.
Have you ever heard of the rule of 3 with EVPs, Tom?
Yeah.
I mean, if 3 people all agree independently, if 2 out of the 3 agree, or if none of them agree, it's kind of classified accordingly. It's not to say that if nobody agrees, that it's not something that doesn't belong there. But this idea of Class A, Class B, Class C, we love to catalog stuff. That's what we do. But we just kind of tend to try to reach a consensus with those type of things. So especially, I think, with a spirit box, because we've done sessions where we ran a splitter off the spirit box and had 2 people listening to the same thing at the same time. And occasionally they heard the same thing, and other times they didn't. So I guess you have to label that as incomplete.
Yeah, I also take into consideration that my hearing's really good, but one of my ears doesn't pick up certain frequencies anymore. And I knew this because I found this out because we have a Neuchatel clock, and when it rings on the hour, it goes cling, ding, ding with a click behind it. But if I cover that ear, all I hear is the click. I don't hear the bell dinging.
I would have guessed it was because of all those years you spent on tour with the Who.
Yeah, but I wore earplugs for most of that.
All right, so where do we want to go here? Let's get back to another location. One of your favorite. Let's talk about Tavern on Main. I'm going to put the picture up. This is what it looks like. Next is a picture of the inside. Very rustic. Good food too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, great food. And next is a picture of Tom sitting at the table. Not sure what you're doing there with the other two folks, Tom, but tell us a little bit about Tavern on Main, because this is a place that you frequent. You do dinners there, and it's sort of a home away from home for you.
Yeah, that's actually, we started doing them there in 2007, and we still do the Dining with the Dead. We'll be there the 22nd and the 28th. And it really is probably the most haunted restaurant that we've ever done, because we get so many things. And not only that, but people are constantly calling us, or we go there and they're telling us this happened last week. Ketchup bottles flew at some people, this massive amount of things. There's ghosts of a little child in there. There's a ghost of maybe a previous owner, a woman who was tragically killed there. Another ghost of, we think, maybe Thomas Dorr, because that was his office during the rebellion. That was their focal point. That was it. That was the hub of it during the Dorr Rebellion when he was running for governor. There's just a whole bunch of different. We've collected so many EVPs from there. There's a woman who appears in the back booth in front of everybody and anybody. In fact, one of the things I think maybe I sent it to you or I didn't. I should, was done on a spirit box. And you can hear this one answer the question above all the frequencies. It's going, and you'll hear, "My name's Alice," right above all the frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And
I didn't get that one.
Oh, I'll have to send it to you. It's pretty cool. But Arlene also at 10:30 at night, she got a child answering her in the tap room. And this is at 10:30 at night. Number one, you wouldn't have children in a bar. And number two, not at 10:30 at night, but I sent that one to you.
Yeah, I had a spirit there, at another restaurant you're familiar with, asked me where I got my knit hat from. Asked me if did your mother make that for you? So yeah, I got disrespected by a ghost in there.
They are different. The child ghost is seen by everybody. In fact, the little child who is Deb, who works there, she's been working there for 20-something years.
Mm-hmm.
Her daughter, when she was, not her, I'm sorry, a guy she was going out with before she got married, he had a daughter and they went to use the bathroom where the little boy is seen. And he goes in there after a while and knocks on the door because she hasn't come out, and he hears her talking, and she opened the door and says, "Oh, this little boy wants to come home with us." And he didn't see anybody. And you could hear her talking to somebody. And another reporter went in there. We were supposed to do a story that day, and I showed up a little late, and she was all shook up. And she said she came in, and the people are working in there, the waitresses are getting ready, and the serve whatever they're doing. And she saw the little boy standing in front of that stove where they served the soup and bread. And she said, "Oh, you must love coming here with your mom and everything." And the boy vanished.
Now, Tavern on Main, when was that establishment first opened?
It was built in 1760, but it opened as a stagecoach stop in 1799. It was a former home, and then Cyrus Cook opened it, and he's buried up the road. And it's had several owners, but yeah, it's seen a lot. It has seen a very lot.
Okay, so what I wanted to get into you next, and maybe George will get into this too, because we got a few more clips to play. We got some video, so don't go anywhere. Our friend Jeff Hilton wants to ask, are there many paranormal sites that are influenced by the British myths in New England?
Interesting.
So what kind of stories go back to our first settlers here in New England, as far as the Puritans coming over? What did they bring over, do you think, in terms of, besides diseases that wiped out the indigenous people, superstitions, myth, folklore? How does this all play into?
Oh, that ties in, yeah. We in King Philip's War Ghosts and in other books, Strange New England, you see like these things like Witches Rock. Was a rock where they thought witches came out of an evil spirit, so they brought a lot of witchcraft stuff from England with them. Yeah, and the so you got them coming over, and they have that built in already from their land, and they come here, and yeah, there's rocks and trees in England, there's rocks and trees here, so they're gonna attach it to that as well.
Yeah, probably not a good idea when you are in the new world or a new place to bring your own beliefs and superstitions with you before you have a chance to figure out the lay of the land.
Right, but they did, a butter wouldn't churn. Oh my God, it's a witch, it's the next door neighbor. The same thing they would have done over in Europe type thing.
Sure. And Jeff goes on to point out, because he lives in this area, he's often wondered that since the Appalachian Mountains and the Scottish Highlands are the same mountain range, do the same energies and paranormal activities occur in both places? It's an interesting point.
It could if the pressure zones and that kind of thing were the same, where they'd hold the energies. The mountain range, I've never seen anything paranormal on the Appalachian Trail. I've done a lot of it. But it could be, like, let's say, that's another thing I use as a hypothesis is meteorology. You know how we have pressure zones that pocket energy, tornadoes, hurricanes. You don't see a hurricane forming in Canada. That's a certain kind of energy that's being harnessed somewhere. So if it had the same type of, let's say, maybe energy pockets, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, a place like Canada doesn't have Gulf streams, but let me finish up with this before we move on. What do you think, or what role does geology play in New England? Because we've got all sorts of theories about water and granite and crystals and all the rest of that type of thing that is a beacon or a generator that could possibly fuel paranormal activity. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I actually studied some of geology in college also, and having quartz, a lot of quartz, underground streams and everything in New England, that's a natural battery. People don't realize, but we still use the little quartz crystals in the old. That's why they call it a quartz watch. Right. The movements, because a normal circumstance, your battery would die in like 5 days. But having that in there, it kind of recharges and keeps the battery charging, or at least keeps it cycling around. So I believe that it's very possible it could be paranormal like that, but definitely there is a battery. In New England, like there wouldn't be. We have all the glacial dumps around here. This is where the glaciers, dumped all that. So and from a geological standpoint and a scientific standpoint, I wouldn't doubt that it being a battery like that kind of there. Maybe people never said, oh my God, this place is wicked haunted. Let's go and dig 100 wells and see how much water and quartz crystals under the ground. Right.
Well,
but it could very well be.
One of the things, too, is called the piezoelectric effect, and we don't have a lot. Well, I shouldn't say that. We probably have more earthquakes in the Northeast than we're aware of.
Right. Yeah.
We're certainly not, the San Andreas fault, but you've got tectonic plates that are constantly shifting, and this releases energy, which ignites natural organic materials, which is why I think a lot of times you see things like the Brown Mountain lights or the Paulding light or something along those lines, because just naturally occurring geological shifts. So maybe there's something like that all over, but here, atmosphere and things like that, it affects people's physiology as well. And I'm not saying it makes them hallucinate, but I'm not saying it doesn't either.
Yeah. As far as what do you call piezo effect, I know from a musical standpoint, you put it on something and it amplifies it. And I'll put my guitar, I'll play it, electric guitar even. You don't hear much, but I'll lean it up against the table and the whole table resonates.
Mm-hmm.
And now they even have speakers. I just saw one on an advertisement. You put this little metal speaker on a table, and the table acts as a speaker as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it could have something to do with it.
It's vibrations at a certain frequency. Yeah. That can mess with your head. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
The next clip I want to play, you ask for someone's identity, and they give you their identity at the end of this. So I'm going to play the clip, and when we come back, you can give us the background. But here's another one from Tom D'Agostino.
Now, when there's ask a question, somebody will say something, and then you wait 10 seconds. What is your name?
Okay. If anybody wants to take a shot at it in chat, but Tom, tell us about what's the background of that particular clip.
That was done in room 27 at the Concord Colonial Inn, and that comes from a reel-to-reel tape recorder, 1960s General Electric reel-to-reel recorder. And they said, what is your name? And you hear it say Walter.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty cool. That was an actual reel-to-reel recording.
Okay, so here is the clip again with the labeling.
Now, when there's ask a question, somebody will say something, and then you wait 10 seconds. What is your name?
Okay, there you go. Sounds pretty good to me. George, you want to weigh in? Hi, what do you think?
Yeah, that one I could pick up the second time around. First time I wasn't sure. I didn't know where it was at. That's one of the things when you're going through the first time, you're just trying to figure out because of all the background noise, which one it may be. As soon as it came around the second time, I could hear clear as day Walter, even his tonation. So yeah, good catch.
Hey, Tom, do you think using magnetic tape plays into that as well? Because we've all heard stories about when people have left a cassette tape on a bed, not a player, just the tape itself. They'll listen to it later and they find voices on it. Does magnetic tape maybe on a reel-to-reel play into that?
It might, but the thing about reel-to-reels is still the best recording medium that we have ever invented, because these reel-to-reels, they can run at 3.5 seconds per, inches per second. And magnetic, the chromium dioxide or ferrous oxide that these are made with, pick up everything and anything. It's limitless. Where digital, it breaks it down. It can pick up 1,500 megabytes or bits and stuff like that. But it breaks it down to analog, then puts it back to digital. And in many cases, if you got cheaper recorders, what it does is it says, "Oh, I'm putting this back, but we don't need that stuff," and that's the stuff we're looking for. So we use the best digital recorders you can buy. We have recorders that are actually from recording studio recorders for live recording and stuff, and we compare it with the reel-to-reels. I don't know about the corruption of that sitting on a bed or something and they hear voices. It depends on, I need to see it. I need to say, is this a brand new tape that you just pulled out of the package, or are you reusing this?
Right. Yeah. Well, he's supposed to be unsealed. I just heard the stories. I've never heard one, but people swear by it. And those of you who listen to or are our Patreons on Monday, when I do those little Paranormal Academy things, I've talked to you about digital recorders, what to look for, what to buy, what not to buy, maybe more importantly, and, tried to break it down how they're digitized into binary code, compressed zeros, ones. Nobody cares about it. So before we move on to the next clip, let's talk vampires. And I'm going to put a picture of Mercy Brown. Everybody has heard of her. Well, there she is. And she was 19 years old at the time. Now I'm going to put a picture of Historical Cemetery number 2 in West Greenwich. And this was home to another alleged vampire named Nellie Vaughn. Now I'm going to put another one up there. This is the broken headstone of Sarah Tillinghast. Now, these were all considered Rhode Island vampires, as you know, Tom. Probably the weird thing, unless I got this wrong, I believe they were all 19 years old at the time where of their deaths, or pretty close to it. But yet, all of them have been falsely accused of being a vampire. How crazy were we back in the late 1800s?
Well, it was in the middle 1700s it kind of started, and then it didn't end until in some cases almost the 20th century. 1892 was Mercy Brown. This tuberculosis or consumption that was taking everybody. They basically didn't have a cure. They actually did have a cure, but they didn't believe Benjamin Martin's in 1720. And they just took the superstition and folklore because whole families were being wiped out. Even Nancy Young, she was about 20 years old when she died in 1826 in Forster, Rhode Island. So the Rhode Island vampire, per se, was personified as this young woman, like you mentioned it, 1919, 2018, Sarah Tillinghast, Mercy Brown, Nancy Young. They were, and supposedly the Nellie Vaughn, they just picked her stone because it says, "I am waiting and watching for you," which is a typical religious saying. But yeah, it was pretty wild because the funny thing that we did is in our book, A History of Vampires in New England, and also corroborated with Michael Bell. I still send him stuff I find. There's a ton of cases all over. But the one thread, which is kind of funny, is most of them are people who removed from Rhode Island to Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut. They all basically came from Rhode Island. So this thing was really a focal point that started here in Rhode Island.
Right. And for somebody who may not know the story, this may or may not interest you folks, but I'm going to tell it anyway. These legends of vampires and the desecration of a lot of these gravestones, Sarah, Nellie, Mercy, Mercy's is back, but it's been anchored. Nellie Vaughn's, her descendants requested it just be taken away. And it all seemed to start at Woonsocket, Rhode Island Middle School, where an English teacher was telling the story to his class of the teenage vampire. Okay, and I guess he was talking about Mercy Brown, but these misguided kids went out into West Greenwich, saw Nellie Vaughn's tombstone, as Tom aptly put it, says, I am watching and waiting for you. So immediately they all freak out because they think that's a message directed at them. So the thrill seekers go out and, destroy the headstone, as these knuckleheads are wont to do. Case in point, Bathsheba Sherman's in Burrowville, in Harrisville. So that's why they had it removed. But the whole Mercy Brown haunts the thing is all based on a false premise. And, all because of an English teacher who was like on a Friday trying to do Spooky Friday or something like that, and drove these kids to go and do crazy things, right? And I got a picture up right now of the mausoleum that Mercy was kept in, which is another interesting facet of this, Tom, I think needs to be talked about. The idea that when they exhumed her body, it was in relatively pristine condition and still displayed blood. So do you want to lay waste to why exactly they found that?
Well, when she died in January, they put her in there because they, couldn't dig in January or February. So by March, the coffin is still in an ice cold refrigerator. And the heart, which is made basically of protein, is the last thing to decompose. And it is very common to have coagulated blood in the heart at that time because they didn't do embalming either. So if they had embalmed her, they would have cut all that stuff out, fill it with sawdust, and you wouldn't have no choice. but they did the burials that quickly, or just put them in there, being obviously contagious. So yeah, it was very common. Even Dr. Metcalf, who performed the whatever you want to call it, the surgeon who went there and performed the cut her open and everything, said it was very common for that. There was no, yeah.
Now, it wasn't just limited to Rhode Island, because I got a quick picture up here of the Jewett City vampire.
Oh yeah.
With the way this individual was buried, with the arms crossed across the chest, the skull removed from the rest of the skeleton to discourage returning from the grave. I think we did a little bit on this last time, but there were some brass tacks, I think, that were hammered into the coffin with a number, which I am completely drawing a blank, and it was sent to the Smithsonian, and that's what they know this individual by, number whatever it is.
JB 55, yeah.
Yeah. So in Rhode Island, I mean, we've had our fair share of bizarre kind of things going on. So I am going to show a couple of videos now as we turn the corner here. This one is at the Colonial Inn, I believe. This is in room 24 as well, where it looks like Arlene is conducting this. All I can see is the back of her, Tom. Is this Arlene?
Yeah, that's Arlene.
Okay, so I'm going to play the clip, and something kind of unusual happens because everybody's attention is focused in one direction, and that changes real quick. So it's about a minute long. Here's the clip, folks.
Shadow? Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I can't wait to hear what they say. I'm sorry, I know you mean Samantha. Okay. Did you hear what Samantha said? Ooh, flashlight.
She asked it to shine.
I know, I saw that.
Did you hear what she said? Can you turn the light back on? Let us know. Put your imaging into the light.
Everybody feel free to say that.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, because maybe Miss Rebecca will come and hang out with you.
You're like,
Okay, so tell us about it, Tom, before we say, it's the old flashlight trick. What's different about this?
Well, the old flashlight trick, you buy those flashlights at the dollar store, number one, or you can set them to just go on and go on. Yeah. We use the very expensive mag lights because I do not want to pick up a flashlight and go out in the middle of the woods with a cheap dollar store flashlight and all of a sudden not have it work and end up in a river or something. So we use very expensive mag lights. And what I did is all I did with that was when I set her stuff up, I had it there and I turned it off also because I don't want to waste the batteries. So for that to go on is pretty amazing because it's a mag light that you have to spin the cap for to turn it on. No, clicky on off thingy. And it went on. And the funny thing is you see that person in front of it turns around and looks down. Nobody's near it. Nobody's jumping. Nobody's tapping anything. Nobody's moving. It just goes on by itself.
Yeah. Did anybody ask him? Because he turned around like 3 times before that thing went on. Did anyone ask him? It's like, dude, why did you hear something? Did you feel something? It's like, why was your attention diverted multiple times before that happened?
Yeah, nobody did it. I know of. All I know is everyone was paying attention to Arlene because, she was basically reading the cards and running the show at the moment. Right. So, but it was pretty interesting because I use that flash. I use them in all our ghost hunt kits. They're, $15, $20 mag lights. And I know the ones that people like to play with in the ghost hunt things. I bought them at the dollar store just to show people. I put it on the table and I go boom, and it lights up. You slap it and it goes off.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into a couple of clips. Before we get out of here, folks, again, if you have any questions for Tom at all, or George, myself, anything about Rhode Island, anything maybe from where you live that's similar to what we're talking about, and want an opinion, or just tell us a little bit of a story, please feel free to go ahead. All right, so I want to play this one first, Tom, and then you can break it down. We just called it "Did You Fall?" This is the only one where you might have to guide us through this. So let me play the clip.
Did you fall?
Okay, so this will be a good test of this because I hear a woman's voice twice. First, I hear what sounds like a male voice, but I'm not exactly sure what I am listening to there. So take us through it, please.
And it's about 10:30 at night. We're at the tavern on Main doing an investigation. And Arlene, she's trying to communicate with the little spirit of the little child that's there.
Yeah.
Who has been seen in the tap room looking out the window, even when the place was closed down, when it was for let in between owners. This is, and they've seen him in the like I was saying about in the ladies' room, in the dining room. They've seen him in the dining room upstairs. Well, she draws a card about an injury or something, and she goes, "Did you fall?" And then you hear a little voice go, "Did fall?" And then you hear the giggling of a child. Okay. And that's in the bar at 10:30 at night. We didn't hear that at the time. When I played it back, I heard that. So that was a EVP from a recorder and not something we heard from a spirit box or anything.
Right. Okay. Let's run it through again now with that in mind.
Did you fall?
All right, you got me. You did it to me. But in knowing what to listen for, I don't dispute that I hear what sounds like giggling. I hear what, might have been I fell or something along those lines. Humor me or indulge me if I play this one more time for everybody.
Did you fall?
Okay, there you have it.
Yeah, did fall or something like that, and then the he.
Right.
It's kind of creepy.
Right. Do you when you go to these places, is there anything in particular that really attracts you to it? Is it necessarily the age of the building, or do you think we overemphasize that a little too much?
The age, yeah, because we've been on investigations where houses were brand new. Oh, this house was built 8 years ago, but there's things happening, maybe because the land could be old too. It's not, but these places were already, they have reputations. When we do these events, they have reputations of having, been haunted, or people saying, yeah, this happened, we're not sure. So then we go in and we start doing events, and we, go to the places, and all the people who work in there say, this happened in this room, this happened in that room. Well, we want those rooms then. Type thing. So it can be the age, but we've been to places, private homes and things that are like brand new, and things are happening.
As a researcher now, how often do you run into those places where you go back, you look at the history, you look at the background, you look at the ownership, you take everything into consideration, the age of the house and everything, where you can legitimately say there's a rational explanation for it?
Yeah, we've had that many times. In fact, we've had one where these people they had a brand new house, and they lived in the middle of nowhere, but they lived in the city. They moved from the city, and all of a sudden they hear this noise at night, and they get up and there's nothing there. So we said, we'll set up the cameras, and then we'll pick them up in the morning. And what we found it was they never heard it in the city because you got the ambulances, the traffic all night long, this, that, and the other thing. It was their cat at a certain point of the night gets up and starts being rambunctious.
Do you think that we're in the middle of another cycle of the increase of claims of paranormal activity now? Because sometimes these things are cyclical. They come and they go, but it seems this one, it's sort of like, as a musician, I equate it to this, right? Music through the decades has always had an enema, right? Yep. There was music, and then rock and roll came along. And then going forward, there was glam rock. I'm not even going to count disco. That doesn't count. But then there was punk. Then there was new wave. Then there was grunge. Then there was emo. And it seems like we're stuck in a cycle of the same type of music all the time. Do you think, and I say that because it seems this cycle of the paranormal has lasted longer than most. Would you agree with that? Let's go back to 2000 to 2024, where the interest has seemed to have spiked, and it doesn't show any signs of recession anytime soon.
Yeah, the coolest thing about that is I've been doing this for 43 years, and I remember in the 80s, with a little cassette recorder and a camera, whatever you had, and doing things like that, and everyone says, "Wow, you're a whack nut," and this kind of thing. And then around 2000, people start coming up to me while I'm playing out. Hey, do you know any? I hear you're like a ghost guy. You know any cool places to go to? And then by 2003 and 5 and 6, you got all these shows out. A lot of people were afraid to talk about it, perhaps, too. And coming out with all these shows and things like that, maybe they said, well, I guess this is happening to a lot of people. And then I want to see what's happening, and I want to do that. And boom, boom, boom. The next thing you know, companies come out and say, this machine works, that machine works, this will do it, that'll do it. And that's another thing too. It helps perpetuate it with all these gadgets. I was using thermal scanners when I was an auto machinist in 1980 to check, because we were building engines, racing engines, to check to make sure each of the cylinders were going to be the same heat. When the water jackets. I was using EMF meters when I was working for a guy in college doing contracting. So, make sure the walls didn't have live old knob and tube wiring in it. So when I put my hammer through there to rebuild it, I wouldn't go flying 40 feet backwards. And then all of a sudden, and so they say, well, these could be used in this too.
Well, we're coming up on it now. We've got a couple minutes left. So let me get this last clip in. I'm going to play it. Good time to bring George back in. Excuse me. So here it is, folks.
Where are you?
Sounds like the theme from Law and Order there at the end. Here it is with the graphics, folks.
Where are you?
I heard the bed. But again, pareidolia. Here we go. What is the device you're using there, actually, Thomas?
It's a spirit box with an amplifier, and I'm using a noise gate to cut down on any extraneous frequencies that may be coming from outside. And then I put a reverb on it so I could hear it a little lengthy more, so I could actually discern it better later.
Is that kind of like a honeytone?
Yeah. Except I forgot which one I was using. A Fender Squire 10 watt.
Right.
But I use the honeytones now because we have them at the store. I can get them for like wholesale.
Right.
We've got 1 minute left here, and I wanted you to do a little promotion where people can find you, whether it's regards to the paranormal, particular case, or anything of that sort, or just want to follow you on social media. Where do they go?
They can go to www.tomdagostino.com or www.diningwiththedead.com. Well, diningwiththedead1031.com.
And you've got some upcoming events, locations that you're going to be at. Are these open invitation events or these are closed events?
No, they're open invitation. We got about 38 events now that are all open invitation. You can look on the scheduled events and sign up for them. We got 8 of the paranormal investigation dinners where, you're the investigator and you get to eat great food, the buffets, and we do tons of giveaways. And then we have over $8,000 or $9,000 worth of equipment that we show you how to use in the rooms, and you are actually using them with us. So you're the investigator. It's hands-on for everybody.
And we're not going to forget Ramtail Factory this year. We're not going to forget that. And at some point, don't be surprised if you don't show up at one of these events. Except for the one you're not having on Halloween night, because
that's our anniversary. Arlene and I were married on Halloween at the Tavern on Main. And what we do is we hand out candy.
So you got married on Halloween. Folks, that's Tom D'Agostino, and he's been great tonight.
In a nutshell, exactly. Tom, thank you for taking the time tonight. Sorry for the logistical issues on there. We'll get it correct one day, my friend, and get you back again.
Yeah, no problem. I'd had a great time no matter what. It was fun.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. And for those of you who are Patreon members, we'll see you guys tomorrow night for the town hall at 8 p.m. If you're not a Patreon member, you're missing out. Hopefully we see you guys join us as well.
Jazz hands.
Until next time, on behalf of Ken DeCosta, my name is George Lopez. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week. Take care.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me, turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her